If you were thinking about moving to Florida's Panhandle even a little bit, you need to watch this video. What is going on, everybody? It is Andrew and Kristen with the Original Life on the Emerald Coast team. In today's video, we want to talk about the top 5 reasons. There were more, but the top 5 reasons why we decided to stay here in the Florida Panhandle. And we both have completely different stories on this, so you guys are definitely in for some good information.
But make sure you stick around to the end, because the last reason was one that I almost used as a con and didn't make me stay here.
So just as a little background so you guys understand kind of where we're coming from, back in 2005, I was moved here from the military. And when I got out of the military in 2014, I had to make a decision on where I was going to start my real estate career. And I ended up electing to stay here for many different reasons, but it was not an easy choice. I definitely had to kind of go back and forth on, am I going to go back home where I was originally from? Am I going to stay here, or am I going to move to a completely different city?
And for my husband and I, we got orders here in 2017 from England. We knew that my husband, Michael, was only going to he had 3 years to retire. So we knew we had just a limited time here. And for us, we were looking at either going to Iowa, where his family is, going to the Atlanta area because we knew there was going to be some jobs there, or staying here. So there's a lot of factors for us as well. And it's going to be the fun video that we get all into it.
Let's talk about the first reason why, at least, I decided to stay. So for me, the military was kind of embedded in me a little bit, even though I'd only done about 8 years. Funny story, her husband, Mike, was actually my supervisor back then. So, we've known each other for a very long time. But when I was deciding where I wanted to go, I wanted to make sure that it was somewhere that was military friendly, because it was who I was. I was a military brat growing up. I slid right into the military right after college, and it was just natural to me. I speak the lingo. I like the people. I, get along with the people. They're my kind of folks. So that was one of the biggest reasons for me here, because we've got multiple military installations here. It's not just one. We've got Eglin, we've got Hurlburt Field, we've got 7th Special Forces, we've got Duke Field, and then you go just a little bit further, and we even have Tyndall out in Panama City, as well as the Naval Air Station in Pensacola. So that was one reason for me.
Yep. And for us, it had a lot more to do with, we knew, like we said, that he was retiring soon. And property taxes here, there's tons of benefits for being retired, especially if you're 100% VA disabled, which my husband is. So we don't have to pay property taxes. And a lot of states have similar things to that, but Florida is one of very few that we've got 0 property taxes because he's 100% VA disabled.
And of course, the no income state tax is also a benefit too. Yeah. Kind of help us going into, at least for me, going out of the military into something a little less stable, having that extra income is also very important.
And then also, if you're active duty military and you get deployment orders, if your home is homestead, then you get to actually kind of take that time as a discount off your next year's taxes. So that's another huge benefit for a lot of military families.
Yeah, and then on that subject too, for those that don't know what homesteading is, that is another benefit of Florida. It's kind of changed over the years, but basically what it looks like now is a reduction in your property taxes for basically claiming Florida home. Mm-hmm. And so that was also kind of a nice little add-on, one that's not necessarily benefiting just the military. This is for anybody, but still something to make note of. And another one for me personally was to make sure that there were good VA clinics around. And so that was another thing that I had to kind of research, is make sure that the VA did have some good hospitals here, because I am also disabled through the military, so I get my health care through them. So I wanted to make sure I had pretty good access. And for anybody that knows, the VA clinics are very hit or miss as to the type of service you're going to get. So I wanted to make sure I was getting something. And then, of course, alleviating that payment for me was always important, but that would have happened really anywhere.
Yeah. Florida also offers a lot of different scholarship programs for both veterans as well as their dependents, whether they're retired or not, which is pretty awesome. Chapter 35 is one of the bigger programs, but there's Purple Heart scholarships, there's Wounded Warrior scholarships, there's all kinds of stuff on top of, in our area specifically, because we do have a ton of military here, there's all kinds of scholarship programs through different organizations and things like that for our military kiddos. So it's one more reason for us, because we've got, middle school to high school age kids that, we're looking at college money and college dues and things, and stuff gets expensive. So every little bit helps.
And anytime you're in a central hub of a lot of military, you start seeing these things pile up, and it makes it a little bit more beneficial. So that is our first reason why we both happen to stay here in Florida.
Yep. So number 2 is affordability. So again, from my side of things, we were comparing 3 different areas. So Des Moines area, Alpharetta, which was the city that we were specifically looking in, and then Navarre, which is where we currently live. So what I did was, at the time, we compared all different things. So cost of living, so how much groceries are going to cost, gas, that good stuff, but also housing, because obviously that's a big chunk of our budget. So I don't remember what the numbers were 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever we did that, but I did it this week. So these are numbers for this week, what it would currently cost us. So I kind of wanted to go over those numbers just to kind of see, because you'll see a clear winner. So for groceries, what I did was I went on Walmart.com and I built out a cart of, eggs, milk, butter, bread, some staples, if you will, to see kind of what that price would be like. And they were all actually pretty comparable. So anywhere from like $35 to $37. But the big note is that Florida and Iowa don't have sales tax on food. I didn't get a clear answer for, I forget what county Alpharetta's in, but I didn't get a clear answer on that. Some things said that Georgia doesn't have sales tax on food, some do, but either way, they have really high sales tax. So it was kind of a wash there, but Navarre was the cheapest. The next thing was, again, my kids are all in volleyball, so they're all in sports. So I did just a kind of a cost comparison for volleyball clubs for a national team. My daughter's on the national team, so it is wildly
fancy.
Very fancy. It is wildly expensive. And actually, Des Moines was the cheaper of the two at $2,800. Navarre is about $3,000 to $3,500, and Georgia was $6,800, almost double. So, I mean, again, huge. I was actually surprised that Des Moines was so cheap. I shouldn't say cheap, it's not cheap, but as low as it was. But huge difference there. The next thing was price of gas. So I'm going to cheat and look at the notes because I want to get the actual numbers right. So Navarre was $2.58 a gallon, and this was off Gas Buddy. If you don't know, it's a great app to get some cheap gas.
Good to know.
Des Moines was $2.61, and Alpharetta was $3.13. So again, it's not a huge difference between Iowa and Navarre, but big enough if you're a real estate agent driving all the time.
Especially when you stack that over time.
Exactly, yeah. Those pennies add up. And then the next thing was housing. So we have a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with a 3-car garage. So I did keep that comparable. We also have a pool in Iowa. Not as common to have a pool, so there's a little bit of difference there. But right now, if I wanted to purchase that in Navarre, we're looking around $500 to $550. In Des Moines, we're looking anywhere between $600,000 to $700,000. And in Alpharetta, you are between $800,000 and $1 million. And that's for that. And that's not like a bougie thing. That's literally that was the low end of housing prices for Alpharetta, Georgia. So again, huge difference in prices. So for us, Navarre was the clear winner for affordability.
Yeah, the affordability was a little bit of a factor when I was looking as well. But of course, I was kind of comparing New Mexico, where my folks were from, where I actually could have gotten a house for very inexpensive. Mm-hmm. But of course, the area not as great as I would have liked it to have been. So I also had to take into effect the affordability. And it's actually surprising when you do look at a lot of other cities, whereas we're not the cheapest by any means. It's not a rural area, out in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do. So you're going to have a little bit of expense there. But in comparison to what we were getting, or what we do get here in the area, the prices are, in my opinion, outstanding. Mm-hmm. Even now, I know some of you guys are looking at the prices going, you guys are crazy. The prices are insane. I understand that they've gone nuts. They've kind of gone nuts all over the country. Right. The affordability here, all in all, is still very good.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing on affordability is sales tax. A lot of people kind of don't think about that. Mm-hmm. And it can vary hugely. So for Navarre and Iowa, Navarre and Des Moines, sales tax was pretty close, but Alpharetta, and again, it's a suburb of Georgia or of Atlanta, they were almost a whole % higher for sales tax. So yeah, and that stuff adds up. Yep.
So that wraps up the second reason why we both, independently decided to stay here in the area. We would love to hear from you guys. So if you comment down below why, if you're living here in the Emerald Coast already, why you decided to stay, what your big reasons were, or if you're thinking about moving here, what your reasons are. We like to chat with you guys down there. So if you do comment down below, it's generally me commenting back. So you guys are kind of talking directly to me, and I try to get to them as quickly as possible. So we'd love to hear from you. Let's move on to number 3.
Let's go.
Okay, the number 3 reasons. This one's kind of a no-brainer. We didn't want to make it the first one in the video because everybody would have been like, well, duh, dude. The beach. We cannot get over the beach over here. I have been all over the country. If you guys have been watching my videos, you know you've heard me say this before. I've been all over the country and all over the world, and I do not see beaches like we have down here. That powder white sand, I mean, it is powder. It is so amazing to feel on your toes, which is one of the most important things for me. And our water is warm. It's clear most of the time. Sometimes we get algae and stuff come in. So if you've ever visited here and it wasn't super crystal emerald green or not emerald blue, but like that deep blue it gets. If it wasn't,
probably June. It was probably June in the June grass. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the June grass comes in, it does make it a little green. It does make it not look super pretty, but that's about it most of the time. And it's gorgeous. And there is nothing like driving down 98, hopping up over the bridge, going to Destin or Fort Walton or something like that, and just seeing the entire landscape. It shocks me not shocks, that's probably a wrong word, but it surprises me every single time. I have never once gone over there, unless of course it's cloudy or whatever, but when it's beautiful, it literally takes a little bit out of me every single time in such a good way.
Yeah. Well, and for me, again, the beach. I'm not a lake person, so I will never want to be that person that's like Tennessee lakes and Georgia lakes. I don't like lakes. If I can't see the bottom and I don't know what I'm stepping in, no, I'm not doing it.
Same.
But for me, like driving home from Fort Walton to Navarre or whatever, like just driving wherever, you look left or you look right, depending on which direction you're going, and you just see the beach. Like, you can't do that in Iowa, you can't do that in Georgia. Like, and I'm from Illinois, you can't do that there. So I mean, it's awesome.
And one of the really cool benefits, talking about lakes, I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but another cool benefit is like when you go to a lake, one of the cool things that you do is you all get together and you hitch up your boats and you have a good time, or, you know, you have a little area or whatever. We have that here. So we're getting the benefit of something like a lake through Crab Island. Like, if you guys have never been out here, rented a boat or taken one of the boat taxis, yes, we have those, out to Crab Island to just have a good time. It's a little sandbar. So you're sitting in like 3 or 4 feet of water. There's little floating bars, floating restaurants, things for the kids to do. There's even a general store floating out there. So if you forget sunscreen or you need a long sleeve shirt because you're extremely pale and you burn instantly, then you can do that. And yes, I have purchased a shirt out there before because, well, it just tears me apart. So if you ever see me out at Crab Island, I look like I'm packing for winter. I've got a long sleeve, waterproof shirt and stuff. But my point here is, it is a really good time, so we're still getting that really good benefit, plus all the other things you get to do with the beach and the water in general. So if you like fishing, you like a jet ski, if you love a jet skis are amazing out here. So anyway,
and year round.
Yeah,
that's the other part of it. Year round. My husband and I, our birthdays are in January. We like to go to the beach just during the day when the kids are at school, and we'll take our little cooler and just sit there with our fleece on and our Ugg boots, because yes, I still have Ugg boots, and our little toboggan hats and stuff, and we're freezing, but it's beautiful and it's awesome. And then we'll kind of just be watching everything, and we'll see some older woman or older man walking behind us or whatever with shorts on and a tank top and a little visor, and like, snowbird. Snowbird. But you can do that because it's year round. But so beach.
That was easy.
Super easy.
Reason number 4.
All right, so reason number 4, and this one is probably a little bit more specific for me and my husband. But again, I'm from the Chicagoland area. I love people. I love all different kinds of people, and I love lots of people. Like, I'm a very high I type personality, if you haven't already guessed. But so for me, I want the diversity. I want all the people. Like, I'm beating a dead horse, I guess. But but my husband does not like to people. He is an introvert. He gets overwhelmed with too many people. So in the Panhandle, for us, it was a nice little compromise, because we do get the diversity, because we've got a lot of military from all different backgrounds. We have tourists coming from all over the world, all over the country. So I get my way of all the different people, and my husband gets his way of there's not a lot of people. So we still get that small town feel, I think, throughout the whole Panhandle, but definitely for Navarre, it's small town. I'll have some of my friends call me and say, hey, I saw your kiddo at the game, or I'll run into someone almost every time I go to Walmart. So it still gives us that hometown feel that my husband likes from being from a small town, but it still gives me the people.
And what's really cool about it too is, you know, this isn't really on the same subject of a variety of people, but it's kind of an interesting point, is that we do have these smaller towns. In fact, you know, a lot of people don't even know, but Destin's only like 16,000 people or something like that. I may be off by a couple of thousand, but it's fairly small, you know, and then you go into Navarre, 20 some odd thousand and stuff. So it is this kind of small town feel, as long as you're the east side of Pensacola or the west side of Panama City, because that's where, of course, both of those cities are a little bit bigger. But the cool thing is we still still have all of the amenities for the most part of a big city. Now, you're not going to have like the super niche detailed stuff of like if you want a vegan soy burger cupcake whatever thing, like we're not going to have that. Now we do have like a vegan food truck, and we've got like, so we have specialized things, which is not something you generally see from small towns with populations of 20,000, and they're spread out just enough that it doesn't really feel like you're just constantly being bombarded, which I really like.
But if you do want those super niche things, we're only a 5-hour drive to Atlanta, so still super close. We're only 3 hours, I think, from New Orleans. So we're in an area where we still have really relatively close access. Some of this could be a day trip. I mean, super close access to things where you can get the niche things and you can get the bigger museums and stuff like that. So that was another instance. That was a bonus reason. That was a bonus reason. Reason number 3.5.
You guys know I love a bonus.
But yeah, so there's a lot of people, but not too many people.
I like it. Okay, so number 4 is a good one, but number 5, I'm really excited about because I didn't even know this about Kristen, that this was almost a deterrent, and it's a pretty big factor and one that I really enjoyed personally, but of course Kristen didn't like. But before we get into that, we do want to remind you guys that we are real estate agents first. So if you are coming down here, you're thinking about moving down here, please consider us for, just kind of helping you out. We'll throw all of our information up on the screen. You can pause this, you can screenshot it, or of course you can go down to the description of any of our videos and you can get all of our contact information. Our amazing admin team will call, kind of set things up with either one of us or AJ, anybody else you've seen on the channel, or one of our team members. So don't forget about that portion. And of course, you can always follow us on social as well. Yep. Now let's get into number 5.
Let's do it. So number 5. The weather.
That wasn't planned, by the way. I like that we did that.
I do too. Yeah. But the weather. And so I'm grouping like forces of nature in with the weather. Okay. So I'm grouping, it's like, sunny and all raining and all this stuff, but also hurricanes, tornadoes, things of that nature. So I'm snowballing it all together because get it snowball.
Yeah, snowball.
Weather pun. So for me, this was my reason why.
And you almost didn't stay here for it.
No.
No kidding.
I was really pushing for farther north, really pushing, and I did not win.
And so for me, it's kind of the opposite. Like I love the weather here. I love the fact that we're just summer, summer and spring. That's what we do. We don't really do the winter thing.
Summer's my least favorite season.
There's nothing more that I love than walking outside and instantly just getting blasted with heat.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just great. I like having a thin layer of sweat on me most times when I'm outside. Of course, I'm being sarcastic in that one sense, but I do like the heat. I like not having to have a jacket. A hoodie's the heaviest thing that I own, which we're in winter season right now, so I'm having to wear it every day. But that was a really big bonus for me. But I do know a lot of people, they don't like that, especially when it comes to the hurricanes and the flooding, which the flooding is, generally hurricane related. For those of you that are worried about hurricanes, we have them 100%. That is a concern. Generally, what I tell people, if you guys have been watching this channel, you already know this little spiel is just watch the news, watch the weather. Be prepared to leave if it looks like it's going to be a category 4 or 5. I generally don't leave unless it's a 5. And to be completely honest, I've stayed for the 5s before.
Not smart. Don't do that.
You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. But I've got a pretty solid house. It's brick.
It doesn't matter.
It's been here for a while. It'll be fine. But yes, you should definitely leave at about a category 5, especially I need to now because I'm like 100 yards from the water. Yes. So probably not a good idea that I stay.
So the hurricane was not a deterrent for me.
Really?
Here's why though. So Midwest, tornadoes, you get maybe 30 seconds to a minute, maybe. Like we know if it's a day that it's going to be stormy day and we know that things are coming through. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's not. They just pop up out of nowhere. I mean, we've got the big like speaker siren things, which we don't have here. They do on base, but they don't anywhere else. And you can't hear them unless you're on base.
Yep.
So for me, not that I like hurricanes, but I like the fact that we get kind of like 2 weeks notice. I mean, we get a long time. We know it's coming off off Africa, the big waves and things. And then it's just a matter of, is it coming into the Gulf or is it going to hit the East Coast? And even then we still pretty much know before it even gets anywhere near us for the most part, like, unless it does something crazy, like where it's coming. But then when it's in the Gulf, I mean, Michael was a really good example. We knew it was coming towards us. We knew generally that it was supposed to turn, but even if it hadn't, we still had a good 3-4 days notice to be able to get our stuff and get out of Dodge. For me, like that's like I've lived in California before and earthquakes are like that. Illinois has earthquakes too, which is where I'm from. Like, I mean, it's I
can't
don't like
run
any
away
of those.
from an earthquake.
No,
you know?
and it just happens. Like you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden it's like, ugh. Like it's not cool.
And with the tornadoes too, like we get them, but it's not near on the same
No.
level. You know, like we just had that one. Actually, I was just looking at it this morning in Tennessee. Did a bunch of damage.
Yep.
Like there is no warning, like Kristen said, and so that was obviously a big benefit to me. And to be completely honest, for a good chunk of my young adult life, I actually thought the tornadoes were really fun. It wasn't until I started like helping out when the tornadoes ended and seeing the destruction that happens, and then it's like, okay, these are no longer fun. To me, it's like, oh, cool, we get to have a hurricane party and, you know, have some cocktails and we're all going to hang out and play Cards Against Humanity. But now as I'm getting older, I'm helping people. I realize it is more destructive, but you do have plenty of time.
Yeah. And tornado versus an earthquake versus a hurricane, they're all massively destructive. Just for me, I feel better knowing that I've got a couple days, weeks notice for that hurricane, whereas growing up, it could be a clear sunny day and boom, tornado. Like there's no, here at least, we normally get tornadoes if it's a thunderstorm type of day. Like we're more, it's not just going to happen out of thin air.
And they're not that strong. I actually had one rip out a tree in one of my residences and then mess up my roof on one of my rentals. But it wasn't like anything like
category 4.
In fact, the damage on the roof was only because I had to replace the roof already, and the roofer was like, "Hey, there's definitely hurricane damage," because he could tell by the grain. So like we didn't even know. So like it's definitely not as destructive.
Yeah. So the other part of it for me again is like the actual climate. Like I like summer, but where I'm from, we get summer for 3 months and then it goes back to, you know, fleece and hoodie weather.
Ooh.
My favorite season is fall. And in the Panhandle and really all of Florida, we get a few different fall seasons. So we like to call it fake fall. So sometimes in September, it will get a colder day and then some of the trees will be like, woohoo, it's fall. And they all change their colors. And then the next day it's 90 degrees.
Yep.
And then those same trees that just changed their colors now lose all their leaves. And then in October, we might get another day like that. So the same thing will happen. We don't really get fall until like mid to end of November. And that's when everything actually changes for if the trees didn't already get faked out. Now they're changing their colors. But it only lasts for like 2 weeks and then it's done. So I love this, like the oranges and all the like driving through a street and like all the trees are fun colors and stuff like that. And we just don't get that too much here. So for me, like that was a huge miss. And I just love fall so much and we don't have it here. So, and then the other part of it is I actually like snow. Like, I know it's been a while since I've lived in Illinois, so dealing with the snow is...
But we have lots of snow here.
We do. So here's a fun fact. So okay. So again, my family was looking at Iowa and Alpharetta, Georgia specifically, well, like Atlanta area, and then staying here in Navarre. So snowfall, I went and Googled it. So Des Moines area, their average snowfall per year is 36.5 inches.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
Oh, man, I don't even feel good about hearing that number. That is terrible.
So
I hate the cold.
That was a deterrent because obviously, you know, my husband and I, we're 45 and we're getting like, we're fine. But in a few years, like if we could break a hip if we fall, you know, whatever, like I don't want to have to deal with that. Yes. So, and then on top, like I didn't want to have to start like Googling the best snow blowers and like whatever. So that was that was an X in that column. Alpharetta on average gets like 2.5 to 3 inches of snow. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Not bad.
I'm like, that's perfect. So you probably get like 1 or 2 days of snow and then it melts away.
Just enough to throw snowballs at your kids.
Yeah, and get the pretty pictures and stuff. And then when I Googled it for Navarre, it honestly thought that I had a typo somewhere, which I started dying laughing. I'm like, no, I really wanted to know. And so obviously we don't have an average snowfall because it doesn't snow. But our first winter here back from being moved from England in 2017, we did get a 1/2 inch.
Mm-hmm.
It was in like in a matter of 3 minutes and it was gone 3 minutes later.
Yeah, and it didn't even stick. It just kind of like...
It did, but only in the grass, not on anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did stick in our grass just a little bit. But
Yeah.
I remember that day I walked out and I was like, what is going on here? I'm like taking pictures for my family.
Everybody did.
Yep, I'm like, oh my gosh, look, it's snowing here. You know?
Well, because it was like really early in the morning, so if your kids didn't have to get on the bus, they would miss it. But every once in a while, like when it frosts, my kids would be like, it snowed overnight. I'm like, no. And then when they were little, not anymore.
Right.
But it was funny. Like, yeah, that's snow. Like, I mean, because it kind of, maybe it's not snow, but it's snow
close.
to them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny. So a difference between 36.5 inches and nothing.
Yeah, but if you do want to see beautiful white snow looking stuff, you just go to the beach and it's everywhere. It's called sand, and it'll get in everything you own.
The first time we lived here, which was like 15 years ago when my daughter was first born, I was driving to Destin, the Target, and I will never forget this. It was the Target in Destin, and I'm driving away, and there was a huge bank of sand, But at first glance, because I had just come from Illinois, at first glance, I was like, I had to take a double take because it did look like snow, like legitimately looked like snow. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so for me, I love the Christmas lights twinkling underneath the snow and like the bushes and trees and stuff like that. And like, I genuinely miss that. But again, I don't want to have to shovel it. I don't want to have to de-ice my windshield. Like, oh, that sucked. So yeah, so this was one of my big things it was almost a deterrent for me. Like it was a huge, like not red flag, but it was a huge reason why I didn't want to stay here. But the other 4 reasons were definitely outweighed this one.
So there you have it. Those are our top 5 reasons. If you have not already subscribed, please consider doing so. We do videos every single week about the entire Panhandle, from Pensacola to Panama City Beach. We're trying to bring value to you guys. So in case you are moving here, you're not moving here blind. And the best way to do that is hit that subscribe button. And then another little pop-up will happen. And it'll have a little bell. When you click it, it will turn blue and give you a little thumbs up. And then that way it will notify you whenever we do a new video. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye. What's every fucking time?
Not as easy as it looks, huh?
And make sure you stay till the end, because the last reason was one that I almost didn't want to stay for, living in fart.
Living in fart.